Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Mikey's Saturday Nightmares. All right, thank you for tuning in. I hope you liked the last video I put out, even though it's only been out a couple of days. I was late getting it out. Apologize for that. But today's video, we're going to start with a film, a relatively old film, an obscure film. For, as far as my knowledge goes, I haven't found anywhere that I can watch it, that I can stream it. So, or not on any of the apps that I have, we'll put it that way. But this film had two different release dates. I'm assuming one was for outside the U.S. and one was for in the U.S. But we're going to talk about a film that was directed by a fellow by the name of Robert Clouse. Now, Robert Clouse had directed such great films as The Pack from 1977. That was the film with Joe Don Baker, I believe, was the main character in that film. He's also responsible for directing the film Enter the Dragon with Bruce Lee from 1973. And he also directed the film China O'Brien from 1990 with the great Cynthia Rothrock. Clouse had a lot of films that were into the action martial arts genre. He didn't make very many horror films. The Pack was one, and of course this film that we're going to talk about tonight was one. And it's a film that came out on April 1st of 1983 and or October 18th of 1982. Like I said, one is U.S., one is not U.S., and I don't know which one's which. But the film we're going to talk about today is called Deadly Eyes. Now, this was a film that I watched. I was probably right around, I want to say 11 or 12 years old, and it scared the shit out of me because I was pretty young and just now starting to get into watching horror films. This is one of those films that I actually snuck and watched from my bedroom while my dad was in the living room watching TV, and where my bed was, I can get a clear shot of the TV. So I would pretend to be asleep when he would come through, but I would actually be sitting there watching the horror films that he would watch. And this is one of those films. Like I said, the name of the film is Deadly Eyes, and it's starring a fellow by the name of Sam Groom, who played the character of Paul Harris, and he's also played in such films as Deadly Games from 1982. More Than Murder from 1984, and he played in 144 episodes of the crime drama Hill Street Blues. Now, I have not seen any of those. I was never a big fan of Hill Street Blues back in the day, so that was not on my watch list. So I have seen none of these films. I'm highly interested to go back and watch Deadly Games and More Than Murder. Because by looking at the photos, they kind of look like horror slasher type film. So I'm definitely wanting to go back and check those two films out. The film also stars Sarah Botsford, who plays the character of Kelly Leonard. And she has also played in such films as Legal Eagles from 1986, Jumpin' Jack Flash from 1986. And she also played in Tremors 4, The Legend Begins from 2004. I've seen all three of those films. They're great films. Jumpin' Jack Flash was a fun film. It was a funny movie. Legal Eagles and Tremors 4, fantastic movies. I can't help it. I just love the Tremors franchise as far as that goes. But Legal Eagles was a fantastic movie. Fantastic movie. And the film also stars Scatman Carruthers, who plays the character of George Foskins. And he's also played in such films as Twilight Zone, the movie from 1983. He also played in the film Zapped with Scott Baio from 1982. And, of course, he played in Stephen King's The Shining from 1980. Now, we all know that Stanley Kubrick directed The Shining, but it's a Stephen King story. With all three of those films are good. Zapped was hilarious. Twilight Zone is forever etched in my mind as one of the true iconic horror films from the 80s. Just because of the cast alone. If nothing else, it had a great cast to it. The Shining, fantastic film. I don't care what anybody says, it stands up to any other horror film from the 80s with no question whatsoever. Jack Nicholson, fantastic in that film. The film was made on a budget of $1,500,000, and the plot for the film was contaminated corn grain produce large rats the size of small dogs who begin feeding on the residents of Toronto. A college basketball coach and a local health inspector try to uncover the source and find the nest. All right, so with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the trailer for Deadly Eyes. Roll it.
They have been here since the dawn of time. They were on the battlefield with Alexander the Great. They were on the edge of Moscow with Napoleon. They're on every continent, in every city, and we do little to stop them. They're here now, waiting, watching. They've gone unchecked, unnoticed, and now they're monsters.
What's the matter? My hand! Something bit my hand! Are you okay? Let's get the hell out of here.
But the bite itself is much larger than anything I'm familiar with. No, if I had to guess, I'd say something in the order of a Great Dane. Except the dogs don't have the jaw pressure to stab through those metacarpals that cleanly.
Would you believe the other day I saw a rat this big?
Are you through?
No, I mean it. He was this big.
Perhaps you could just go and check out the drain for me, please?
It's hard to believe that rats, even sewer rats, would attack a grown man.
As far as I'm concerned, they're just stories.
Overpopulated, oversized, and hungry. Not just for food, but for...
Paul, your lady friend was absolutely right about the rats. They've gotten into the subway.
The rat population of the world is estimated to be 108 billion, 24 times the human population. Deadly Eyes.
Oh, got me taking a coffee break. But anyways, there was the trailer for Deadly Eyes. This was very loosely based on the James Herbert's first novel, The Rats. It is a simple yet adorably crafted horror B-movie. The acting is actually pretty decent, although the characters are very underdeveloped. The gore is adequate, specifically during the attack at the cinema theater scene. That scene is forever etched in my mind as one of my favorite scenes from this film. Like I said, I was probably 11, 12 years old when I watched this. It terrified the shit out of me. Now that scene, according to the book, the cinema scene was replaced by this was the scene that replaced the train attack in the novel. They switched it around and had the train attack in the middle, and in the novel, the train attack was in the middle of the novel, but in the film, they put the train attack at the end. The rats themselves are a mixed bag, being equally odd, creepy, and grotesque at the same time. It is fair to say that the film got better with time, its 80s origins giving it that particular luster which current horror films often try to replicate, or so they claim, but hardly ever achieve. It's formula filmmaking, and Clouse handles both the characterizations and action sequences with adept skill, but albeit with little attention to detail or continuity. The rats show no mercy in the film, even killing and eating toddlers and the elderly. Clever photography make events more realistic, and the suspense is pretty well crafted. Personally, I found Deadly Eyes an above-average horror thriller with substance despite critics' reviews. The critics back in the day when this film came out, they totally bashed this film, just like they did every single horror film that came out, pretty much. I think they were just totally against that genre of film. I think they were prejudiced towards it, in my opinion. If you are an 80s horror film buff like me, then this is a worthy addition to add to your collection, if you can manage to get your hands on a copy of it, that is. This film has become kind of one of those hidden gems that's kind of obscure. You can't really hardly find it. I believe it was released actually on DVD. I'm not sure about Blu-ray, but I know it was released on DVD, and I'd love to have a copy of it. I just can't find it. And it's unbelievably rare to find. Excuse me, I had to get another drink of coffee here. Probably the most graphic scene in the film was the cinema theater attack. But to me, the scene in the film with the toddler and the rats, as you call it, that was a pretty shocking scene. Because I think at that time frame, or in that time period, there wasn't a lot of movies out there that depicted a child's or a toddler's death in the way that this film did. Sure, it didn't show everything per se, but it was quite a shocking scene, a very shocking scene, in my opinion. Of course, like I said, I was 11, 12 years old, maybe 13. So yeah, something like that is going to shock me. But the whole film was very well done. It was very well choreographed, or well, photographed. And it does add to the suspense, the way they did the lighting and the angles that the cameraman took for some of the scenes, despite, the low budget. So it's definitely worth a watch. Now we're going to get into some trivia of the film. In case you didn't know, some people already do, but in case you didn't know, 35 Dutch Hounds and 5 Terriers were used to play the mutant rodents in this film. So I guess they just fitted the dogs with rat costumes and let them run around in the film, which is a pretty cool way to do it, I suppose. Practical effects. The dogs had difficulty seeing in the rat costumes. So meat and blood was used to get them to run in the right direction in any given scene. I can understand using meat, but blood, depends on what kind of blood you was using. But anyways, that's just a step that you have to take when dealing with animals. So I would say more often than not, it's so hard to work with animals and make films with animals in them. And there's probably all kinds of little tricks and stuff like that that you have to do just to get them to do what you want them to do, unless they're very, very well trained. Let's see. Detailed puppets were used in close-up shots, especially in the scenes of them gnawing on their victims. Yeah, I mean, you can't just have like a cheap looking rat costume, with a bunch of dogs, gnawing on people. That would be crazy to even try to pull that one off. I'm having technical difficulties here with this phone. It wants to keep cutting off on me. But yeah, I mean, look at all the films that have come out from back in the day, all the creature features that they had to work with, animals. There was The Uninvited with the killer cat. Then there was Cat's Eye, getting the cat to do and be where you needed it to be at what time you needed it to be there. And, of course, The Pack that I mentioned earlier with Joe Don Baker from 77. I want to go back and do a video on that movie to find out some of the hidden trivia on that film, because that would really interest me, because that's one of my favorite horror films from the 70s, is The Pack with Joe Don Baker. He is truly a hidden gem from that time period. This film gained a cult following with other Canadian-made horror films such as My Bloody Valentine from 1981 and Urban Legend from 1998, and it is frequently shown for viewing during Halloween throughout Ontario, mostly for universities and for the film students. That's pretty cool that you have a film that has made that much of an impact. Of course, now I think it was filmed actually in Toronto, Canada, and not in Toronto in the U.S. So that's understandable. Deadly Eyes, here it is. Deadly Eyes was released on DVD and Blu-ray, and the VHS version still circulates on websites such as Vimeo and YouTube. Now, I looked it up on YouTube and was trying to find a way to watch it and could not find it. So maybe they've taken it down. Maybe it was there and they took the video down or whatever, because it was, illegal to put it on there somehow, something, I don't know. But I couldn't find it. But if you go through YouTube and you find it, let me know. I would love to rewatch this movie again. Some international VHS releases featured images of New York's Twin Towers, implying it was filmed in New York to better market it with people who'd never heard of Toronto, Canada. I could see why they would want to do something like that to better market the film. Of course, now, they never did really state where it was being filmed at in the movie, or what city it was supposed to take place in. It was never specified. So that could be the reason why. Lisa Langlois and Leslie Donaldson both previously co-starred in Happy Birthday to Me, one of the best slashers from this era that was filmed in Canada. Now, Lisa Langlois and Leslie Donaldson play two of the girls that attend the college where Sam Grimm's character teaches at. So that's where they come in at. They're co-stars in the film. And I do remember seeing them from Happy Birthday to Me. They were incredible in that film. And that is true. It is an incredible slasher film from the early 80s. It's a fantastic slasher. None of the younger cast members knew about Robert Clouse's other work with Bruce Lee when they signed up to play this film. So I'm assuming they just signed up to play in this movie because it was an opportunity for them to do so, not knowing the background of the director. But I would say a lot of them, after they found out about his background and about filming with the great Bruce Lee, directing Bruce Lee in some of those films, I bet they were really glad they signed on for that film. Um, excuse me. Robert Clouse was an incredible director, especially for the martial arts films. China O'Brien is one of my favorite Cynthia Rothrock action films. China O'Brien 1 and 2. They were recently released on Blu-ray in a Blu-ray combo pack. I would love to have that. Would love to have that. I do not have even a DVD copy of China O'Brien, but it is one of my favorite kung fu films with Cynthia Rothrock, so I'd love to have that if I could ever find it to buy it and purchase it. This is a great film. It's a 80s creature feature that I thoroughly enjoy, and it was one of the first films that actually got me hooked, I want to say, on creature features. Of course, when Jaws came out back in 1978, 79, something like that, whenever Jaws came out in the late 70s, I was just a little kid. I would have never watched that. So Jaws came to me later on in life, and it's a fantastic film, don't get me wrong, but Deadly Eyes will always be the one that I swing to, mainly because it was one of the first horror films I got to watch. I'm a huge fan of Jaws, though, the Jaws franchise. A lot of people hated on 3 and 4, but hey, they were shark movies. That's what got me hooked on shark movies, was the Jaws franchise. So Deadly Eyes holds a special place in my heart for, the time period that I got to watch it. It has lasted all this time. And I would still sit and watch it to this day. I don't care if it's little dogs running around in rat costumes. I'd still watch it. I enjoyed that movie so much. So, with that being said, we're going to end the video here. Now, Wednesday, coming up on Wednesday, will be the Classic Movie Buffet Theater. I'm going to try to have it out on Wednesday because I know Thursday coming up is going to be Thanksgiving for a lot of people. So hopefully I'll get that video put out Wednesday before Thanksgiving. If not, I hope each and every one of you have a very safe and wonderful Thanksgiving and get to spend it with your families, and enjoy spending time with your families for that week. So with that being said, I will see you guys on Wednesday with another Classic Movie Buffet Theater, and then I'll see you again on Saturday for another Saturday Nightmares. Until then, be safe, have a great Thanksgiving. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.